Hey guys, Dan here, and this is Dan Does Disney. We've got Tim over Zoom. Hey, Tim.
Everybody.
It's time to get to one of my classic favorites that, Tim, you've never seen until this week,
No, I haven't.
and that is the Shaggy Dog. This is the original classic with Fred MacMurray, star of many Disney films. This was the first one he did, but he did many, many more since. And you also had never seen the Tim Allen, right?
No, I saw previews and probably parts of it just doing theater checks at the movie theater when I worked there. But it didn't really interest me.
Yeah, I actually never saw that one either. And it's funny because I was working in Hollywood Video at the time, so I could have like rented it for free if I wanted to. And I don't know, no interest really. But from what I understand about it, they took a different turn with it because it's the father, Tim Allen, that becomes the dog. And in this one, it's the kid, which we'll get into.
Yeah. The out of all the sequels and remakes of the Shaggy Dog series, it kind of basically the same scenario or even the same character. That Shaggy Dog one with Tim Allen didn't have the same, like Wilby or Wilson Daniels are not characters in it whatsoever, where usually it's Wilby Daniels in most of the remakes or sequels. So it's like completely new character,
Wow.
completely new concept.
Okay, yeah, so they went completely off the rails with it. But you know what? That was the era because at the time you had like Herbie Fully Loaded. You had wasn't there another Lindsay Lohan one that like straight? I mean, I know Freaky Friday, that was a bit different.
Yeah.
Cop, I think, was the same basically.
Yeah, I mean, I think Freaky Friday was basically the same situation, but completely different story.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, so anyway, let's talk about this Shaggy Dog. This is from 1959, and it was made for somewhere between $1 million and $1.25 million, and it made on its initial run 9.6 million at the box office, which made it the second highest grossing movie of 1959. Tim, I'm sure you looked into what was number one.
Ben-Hur.
That's right, Ben-Hur. But because Ben-Hur was so expensive, Shaggy Dog was actually the most profitable film of 1959 because it was made so cheaply. And then it was also re-released in 1967 once. Now, on Disney Plus, they have, I think, the black and white version, correct?
Correct. I was a little confused because when you click on it, the still image that they show before you hit the play button is colorized. So I hit play, and all of a sudden it's black and white, and I was confused. I did, in my research, find out that they colorized it in like the 1980s, but
yeah. So it's the first Disney movie to be colorized, and some accounts say that it may be the first movie ever to be colorized for television. That was a comment made on the DVD here in one of the commentaries, but I don't know if that's specifically true, but I do know it's the first Disney ever to be colorized. So the reason that we actually held off a little bit on this one, because we were going to do it last week, but I found that this DVD has some extras, and you know I'm all about getting the DVD if it has extras. So I said, well, let's wait and we'll get this. So this thing says includes two versions, which is the original theatrical black and white release that I guess is on Disney Plus, and then it says with 10 extra minutes, but it also includes the colorized version. But I don't really understand what the sticker's all about because both of the versions on this DVD are exactly the same length, 1 hour and 41 minutes and 36 whatever seconds. So I don't understand where the extra 10 minutes comes from. Maybe
did they change 10 minutes of the movie and it's a new 10 minutes and they deleted 10 minutes of old stuff?
You know what? I don't know because instead of watching both versions, I watched the black and white and then I watched the black and white again with the commentary because that's the commentary apparently isn't on the color version. So I don't know, but from everything I've read, no, they just colorized it and put it on the TV. So maybe what that means is that when it was shown in color on TV, they cut 10 minutes out of it, but they did colorize the whole film.
Oh, okay.
That's the only thing I can figure out. But in any case, so I don't know if it was completely worth it, but there are a couple extras that we'll talk about later that were kind of interesting. But anyway, so the development of this, and Tim will talk about the book that it's based on, but the development was, from back when Disney bought a bunch of these books from Felix Salten, which included Bambi and Perry, which we talked about on the whatever that was, what was that called? Because it wasn't True Life Adventure.
It was a True Life Fantasy.
True Life Fantasy. Yes, that bogus nonsense. But The Hound of Florence was one of them, which is what this was based on. But anyway, so in the mid-50s, Disney was doing Lady and the Tramp, which is, of course, another dog story. And at the time still was like, no, I'm not really going to do anything with this book. But ABC wanted him to make another TV show because it was already being such a success with the Disneyland show. So they pitched him the Shaggy Dog as sort of a TV series. And that didn't really work out, but he was working with all of these kids from certain other movies, including Old Yeller, which we'll talk about, and some of the Musketeers, like Annette Funicello is in this movie. And then in the later 50s, there was this big movie, I Was a Teenage Werewolf. And so Walt was like, well, they've turned this teenage boy into a werewolf in this movie. We can turn a kid into a dog in this other movie. And this was sort of the era of like, at this point in time, TV was starting to get like a little bit out there because they were starting to do like My Favorite Martian and some of these like more bizarro type shows. The one thing I couldn't find anywhere really, Tim, is why Walt decided to do this one in black and white when so much of his film output had been in color to this point.
I was wondering the same thing because I was trying to think of the last black movie we watched for Disney, and honestly,
I don't know if there was one.
You'll have to go back to either the wartime movie Propaganda one. That was pretty much
right. Victory Through Air Power.
Victory Through Air Power. And the one before that, which you did by yourself, which was the Reluctant Dragon. All that was black and white except for the Reluctant Dragon actual cartoon at the end. So it is very odd for him to not do it in color, especially when he was filming all the Davy Crockett stuff and all that stuff that was going to be in black and white on television in color and putting it in the movies. Like he was a color.
Yeah, that's what I thought of too, because as we've talked about, like all these, like the Disneyland show was in black and white on TV because there was no color sets, I guess, but he filmed everything in color. He did the Spin and Marty series, which includes some of the actors from this in color for Mickey Mouse Club. So the only thing I can think of is that the last few movies he did were sort of not that well received from the box office. And I don't know if you watched my video with Joe about Sleeping Beauty, but that was at the time the most expensive Disney movie ever made. It was $6 million. It was a big deal. And luckily for him, it was a success. But I guess maybe because he was pouring all of his money into Sleeping Beauty, that, you know, since the live action stuff wasn't really lighting up the box office, he just said, well, let's cut some costs. I don't know. I couldn't find anything about it.
I did watch that video, and that's the only thing that I could think of is that because he was spending so much money on Sleeping Beauty that they cut the corners and was like, well, and I also read that from an interview from Tommy Kirk that this was actually going to be a 2-part television movie, and at the last minute they made it into a feature film. So I think maybe they were already like, well, this is going to be on TV. It's going to be in black and white. Like, might as well film in black and white. I mean, yes, we do all things in color, but we need to save some money right now.
Yeah, and that could be. Yeah, they talk about that in one of the features here on the disc. But yeah, I mean that's all I can think of. But it's still so odd because he filmed everything in color. You know, so many things that just were never really going to see the light of day in color. But either way, it obviously was a big hit. So my guess would be some of these movies going forward the next maybe few years, maybe some of them will be in black and white since this was such a huge success and it was in black and white that maybe it's like, well, who cares now?
Yeah.
I don't know. Most of the ones that we have coming up in the immediate future, I've never heard of, like Darby O'Gill and some of those. Um, but anyway, so they started filming in 1958 with a lot of these people. Like I said, that he had worked with before. Tommy Kirk was in one of the Hardy Boys things on Mickey Mouse Club, and he was also a part of Old Yeller. And then Tim Considine, the kid that plays what is it, Buzz here? What's his name? Yeah, Buzz Miller. He was also the other Hardy Boy, so they had worked together. Yeah, big success. And we've already talked about sort of the legacy of this. They have all these sequels and the different TV movies they've done. And then there's a direct theatrical sequel that we'll get to in a long time, because it's not till 1976, called The Shaggy DA. And that is starring Dean Jones, who was in a bunch of the Herbie movies. He is the grown-up Wilby. And he's the one, I guess, that again gets turned into the dog. So let's talk about the film.
Okay. So like Dan said, it is loosely based off the 1923 novel The Hound of Florence by Felix Saltine, who did Bambi and Perry and a whole bunch of other things. Stars Tommy Kirk as Wilby Daniels, and he is a young teenager who is misunderstood by his father, Wilson, who is a retired mailman, and he has a disdain for dogs, mostly because they don't like him and because he's allergic to dogs. Wilby is also shy with the ladies and is always competing for their attention with his friend / rival Buzz. When a new girl, Francesca, moves into town, they take her to the museum, where Wilby inadvertently takes home a magic ring. This ring is a shape-shifting ring, and which turns Wilby into Francesca's shaggy sheepdog, Chiffon, often at the most inconvenient times. And it starts a series of misadventures and comedic hijinks, as if his little brother Moochie trying to make him his pet wasn't enough. Wilby stumbles across spies in a nefarious plot to steal government secrets. Can the Shaggy Dog save the day and break the ring's curse with an act of true heroism? And that is the plot. Like I said, it stars Tommy Kirk, who plays Wilby Daniels, and we, like Dan said, we know him from Old Yeller. He will also be in Swiss Family Robinson, and I don't know, in like a couple movies, like 5 movies or so. And then you have Fred MacMurray. He plays Wilson the father. Like Dan said, this is the first of, I think, 7 movies that he'll appear in for Disney. The first of 6 starring roles.
Okay, yeah, I thought it was 6 total, but yeah, okay.
The one thing I saw, it said 7, but then one thing I read was 6 starring roles. So maybe they miscounted. I don't know.
And you don't know him really, like you've not seen him in things, right?
No.
Okay.
I have not seen Absent Minded's Professor, Bon Voyage, Follow Me Boys, all that stuff. Those are some of the movies that he's in. He was also on My Three Sons, which is a television show that ran from 1960 to 1972. On that show, he actually owned a shaggy sheepdog, and that dog was named Tramp. You have Kevin Corcoran. He plays Montgomery, or what they call him, Moochie, on the movie. He was also with Tommy Kirk in Old Yeller, and he'll be with Tommy Kirk again on Swiss Family Robinson. So these boys have played brothers twice already. I think maybe a third time. Definitely had the chemistry. One of our complaints about this kid, Kevin Corcoran, in Old Yeller, is that he was a little bit annoying, and he didn't know, we weren't sure if that was his acting or his directing. I think he did a lot better job in this movie. So I do think it was the directing in that movie.
I think so too. And I want to point out, so the director of this, Charles Barton, really did mostly work with kids. He did a few things. He actually directed Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, and he directed a bunch of the Zorro TV show, but he directed 90 episodes of the Dennis the Menace TV show. And he directed over 100 episodes of this late 60s show called Family Affair, which was like a family show, but they had 3 or maybe 4 young kids. And so, yeah, I feel like he works best with young kids. And I completely agree. I thought that kid was very annoying, like we talked about in Old Yeller. And here, I think he's much, much better.
Yeah, I think, because seeing the 2 performances, I think the performance, like, his acting was pretty much the same, except for I think he was playing an annoying character in the first one. I think that was kind of the direction that they wanted.
Well, and he's also like a year and a half older, so that might help too.
So maybe he has a little bit more acting chops on him. You have Jean Hank. She plays the mother, Frida Daniels. The only other thing I could see about her is that she was nominated for Best Supporting Actress a few years earlier for Singing in the Rain. You have Tim Considine. He plays Buzz. Like you said, he did star with Tommy Kirk in the Hardy Boys television series or whatever that it was on spinoff.
Yeah,
or whatever.
I think it was just a special on Disneyland. Yeah.
And you could tell that they definitely had chemistry between the 2 of them. And then he actually does go on to star in My 3 Sons with MacMurray.
Yeah.
And the only other thing that I could see that he's in is he was in that Swamp Fox Disneyland show. That's
oh yeah.
I think the guy that plays Johnny Tremaine goes on to be in that as well. You have, like Dan said, Annette Funicello's in this. She plays Allison, which is one of the girls that Buzz and Wilby are first vying for attention for. She's famous for being a Mouseketeer, and later for all of her beach movies that she's in. This is her film debut. And interesting is that she has a higher billing than both Corcoran and Considine, even though she has less screen time.
Yeah, I mean, she was real hot back in the day, and I am shocked that we actually haven't seen her in some of the other ones, because Disney had put many of the Mouseketeers in some of those other movies we've talked about in the last, from the 56 maybe through 59 or whatever. But for some reason, she was not one of them, even though she was a very, very popular Mouseketeer. This was her big debut.
Yeah.
And I want to point out too, so yeah, Fred MacMurray did My 3 Sons, classic. Almost all of the big stars in this movie, though, did some of the biggest shows on TV from that era. So Jean Hagen, you had mentioned, Singing in the Rain, but she also was on Make Room for Daddy, which was a huge show back in the day. And she got nominated for an Emmy for that. And then one of the other ones, the daughter, or the girl, Roberta Shore.
Yeah, she was in 70 episodes of The Virginian, which I've never heard of.
That's a Western, but she had a regular role in Father Knows Best. You've probably heard of that.
Yes.
So she was on that as well. So then she did some like Ozzie and Harriet. She did Donna Reed's show. She kind of got around on the TV circuit. So yeah, a lot of these people were in hot shows either of the day or, in Fred MacMurray's case, shows that were soon to be very, very popular.
So as we mentioned, Francesca, she was played by Roberta Shore, and just mentioned what she was on. And then you have Alexander Scorby. He plays Dr. Andrassi, who's the villain, and Francesca's father or adopted father or something like that. And then the last one I have down here is James Westerfield, and he plays Officer Hanson, and he also plays this role, the same exact character in The Absent-Minded Professor, and it was my favorite character in the movie.
Oh, so this is like a shared Disney universe.
Shared Disney universe with 2 Fred MacMurray.
That's
characters.
Very interesting. Now, Fred MacMurray, of course, doesn't play the same character in that movie.
No, just Officer Hanson is in both of them.
Isn't that interesting? Okay, so you and you said you've never seen. I feel like I've seen Absent-Minded Professor when I was real little, but not as much as this one for sure. But that's very interesting that he's the same character. Yeah, he's great in this movie. Very funny. Yeah, I was surprised he actually didn't have too much of a career aside from the Disney movies, because he was not really in. He was sort of a character actor.
Yeah,
Very very funny in this movie.
yeah. From his filmography, he's in a lot of things. It's just everything and anything, basically.
Yeah, like two episodes of Bonanza, Shaggy Dog, these other, old Ma and Pa Kettle movie, like he did an episode of Lost in Space. So yeah, very very interesting. But yeah, he was great in this. Very, very funny.
Yeah. So what do I have written? So I enjoyed this movie. I thought it was funny. I did think though that it is the craziest combination of plot elements that somehow work, because I mean you have like the Cold War Russian spies plot, you have love rivals fighting over a romantic interest, and then you have the fantasy of this boy turning into a dog because of this ring. It just seems like they shouldn't really work together, but somehow it kind of does.
Yeah, what I thought was interesting, now I watched this movie, I don't know, probably 8 or 10 times when I was a kid. This was sort of in the regular rotation in my house, and but I haven't seen it in easily 30 years or more. And I had forgotten all about the Russian spy stuff and the Cold War stuff. I remembered mostly the stuff with the dad being allergic to the dog, and then the kid turns into the dog, and then the brothers, and then he's trying to get with the girl, and it's the girl's dog. Like, I remember that kind of stuff. I remember the stuff about the dance. And all of that is very like late 50s, early 60s sitcom sort of fodder, going to the dance, and those sort of plot lines are very like Leave It to Beaver. And so I can completely see why this was designated for a television show rather than necessarily a full-length movie. I didn't remember at all about, I mean, once I watched it, it came back to me, but like I could have told you all the other stuff, but I had no recollection really until watching it about the spy stuff. And even the part where they took Fred MacMurray into the police station because they thought he was crazy. I didn't really remember that stuff either until I watched it.
Yeah, I mean that scene was funny with him being interrogated.
And interesting with the kid, like it's a pretty good scene acting wise for the kid who was so terrible in Old Yeller, because he had to basically sell his dad out to, get out of the situation so he could make it happen, make things work.
Go save his brother.
Go tell the cops about the spies again. And so I thought that was pretty quality acting for that kid.
Yeah. And then you have Fred MacMurray being like, Moochie.
Now listen, do you hate Fred MacMurray, Tim?
No, I just thought it was weird because it seemed like that scene, like he just said Moochie like probably 5 times. And like I hate one thing I do hate is I hate the fact that this kid's name is Moochie.
Yeah, it's very obnoxious.
It's an obnoxious name. But
it's a nickname, Tim.
I know, but I guess it's like classic 50s. I mean, you have Leave It to Beaver. People call him Beaver.
Actually, that is true. Yeah, Leave It to Beaver. Yeah, Dennis the Menace. I don't know if they actually called him the Menace, but that was certainly the bit. But yeah, Beaver. And all of that was kind of the hip thing of the time to call these kids weirdo names, I suppose.
Yeah.
But all right, so you kind of liked it though.
Yeah, I mean, I like the movie. Yes, there is one thing that I didn't really understand. I get that he turns into the Shaggy Dog, but he turns into the girl's Shaggy Dog. But then when he does that, that Shaggy Dog just like kind of like magically disappears. Like I just didn't get it. Like,
yeah, here's something I didn't really think about as a 9-year-old when I watched it, but yes, it did occur to me today that the dynamics of him becoming the Shaggy Dog and it wearing off and him replacing the dog, a lot of that just generally doesn't make sense. You really have to sort of just go with it and be like, okay, I guess this is the universe that this is happening in. Because yeah, there's sort of a lot of plot conceits that you could poke holes through if you wanted to with this.
That was probably my biggest. Like, I don't mind the Russian spies thing. I mean, it feels like a completely different thing, but they make it work.
Yeah, I didn't mind the Russian spy thing. I just
Yeah.
didn't remember it from when I was a kid.
But it's like he's like turning into a dog, and he's like having like that like Wolfman transformation, and then all of a sudden they cut to the dog sitting on the couch with Francesca and the butler right there, and then all of a sudden it just disappears, and I'm just like, wait, what? Like,
yeah, and for a movie about they're constantly looking for this dog, because of course half the time he's living over at Fred MacMurray's house. They they don't really keep good tabs on him. They try to like lock him up or whatever, but then he has human elements, so he can get a ladder or whatever, he can drive a car, which also doesn't really quite make sense with the I mean, we're talking about the realism of the Shaggy Dog, but
yeah.
It doesn't quite make sense, that he would turn into this dog and then all of a sudden the dog would be able to drive a car. Like, he still has no opposable thumbs, and I feel like the paws are still paws, but whatever. You have to sort of forgive that because it's a kids movie, but
and you need that shot of a dog just driving down a street in a car.
Yes, it's very classic. I feel like even if you've never seen this movie, people are familiar with that sort of shot there, of the dog driving the car. And of course, that gives us reason to go back to the officer, where he thinks he's losing his marbles, and then finally decides to just go with it.
I feel like that bit that they keep going back to for the officer was probably the thing that I liked most.
Well, and I feel like it's also, and I don't know how intentional this was, but I feel like it's also sort of, the Officer Hansen is us, like we have to sort of, okay, forgive that a bunch of things don't really make sense. Finally Officer Hansen's like, okay, sure. Why not? And I think that is also us. We're just like, all right, I sure that happened because it's the movie and this is the universe that they've presented to us. So I thought it kind of worked in that regard as well.
Yeah. So the only other things I have written down, I have more stuff about the legacy. Apparently there was a novelization of this movie, but it was like 8 years later. It came out in 1967, but it had changes. So Annette Funicello's character, Allison, was completely removed.
Which makes sense because she's kind of useless to the plot.
Yeah, I mean, I think it sets up Buzz and Wilby's relationship a lot.
I guess that's true. Playing the women off each other.
Yeah, and then also I feel like the dance scene with her, like Buzz trying to take out both girls at the same time, and Wilby just kind of going along, and then basically both girls are kind of fighting over Wilby. I thought that was good.
That was fine for the movie, but I feel like for a book novelization for young kids, you don't necessarily need a lot of the sort of romance and the love triangle sort of thing to get the whole point across with the Shaggy Dog.
Yeah, and the dance scene probably doesn't work as well just written in a book than it does on the screen.
Yeah, that's well. Oh,
and
also,
then,
wait. As we're talking about the dance sequence, hold on. Were you familiar with any of those terms when they were saying like, oh, this one's going to be a Paul Revere dance and this one's going to be a whatever? I never heard of any of that.
No, because we didn't go to dances in the 50s.
I watched so much 50s TV though. I feel like I would have heard of a Paul Revere dance at some point. But yeah, when they turn out the lights, so because he rode at night or something, that's the bit.
I do not know. I didn't look. The tag dance kind of it
that was like a Sadie Hawkins type thing.
It was,
I felt like
Hawkins, but I feel like it's just for that dance, and the girls get it. So it seems like something legit that they didn't make up for this movie. I doubt that they made up Paul Revere dance for this movie either.
It must have been a real thing. I'm surprised I never came across it in Leave It to Beaver or Donna Reed or any of those shows. But yeah. But of course, when it's Paul Revere dance and they dim the lights, it gives us a great excuse for Wilby to turn into the Shaggy Dog without much sort of fanfare because the lights are dim and whatever.
Yeah.
So
and the other change that they made, a big change, was the villain, the doctor, isn't Francesca's father; it's her uncle. In the novelization,
that makes it personal, I guess. So we can detach ourselves a little more if he's not the father, maybe.
Yeah, because I did think it was weird that like he was willing to like kidnap his daughter and be like, oh no, like it seemed.
Yeah, that part was kind of messed up.
Yeah, and there was a comic book as well, but that was more closely to the movie. I don't know when it actually came out, but there was a reprint in 1978.
Yeah, that was quite the hot thing back in the days. The four book series, for comic books of various whatever Disney movies or other movies. But yeah, and then I feel like I've probably seen the Shaggy DA at some point as well when I was a kid. We didn't own it, but I can see us maybe renting it because we watched this one so much. But that's the only other thing in the Shaggy universe I've ever seen as well.
So that one follows Wilby when he's 45 and he's the district attorney. Then, and that came out in 76. And then there was the
Ed Begley version.
There's a 2-part TV movie called Return of the Shaggy Dog, which came out in 87. And it also follows Wilby, but he's 30 something in this one. So it's kind of like,
that's weird.
Yeah, it's in between the Shaggy Dog and the Shaggy DA in that series. But then they had a 1994 TV remake, which was basically the Shaggy Dog, just remade. And then we also discussed the 2006 movie with Tim Allen, which is surprisingly not on Disney Plus.
Is that right?
Yeah. I
guess if it's not on Disney Plus in 10 more years when we do the Shaggy, when we're into the 2000s.
Well, maybe but right now it's not. If you want to get your Shaggy Dog fix on Disney Plus, you have this original movie and then you have the Shaggy DA as well.
Right. Okay, that's very odd.
I did think that was odd.
Yeah, especially since it's not like they've canceled their relationship with Tim Allen. He was in Toy Story 4 and they still love all the Tim Allen stuff. That's very odd. I mean, I know it wasn't a hit or anything. People didn't seem to care for it, but yeah, at least to have the option. So let me tell you about this DVD here. So other than the oddness of both the black and white and the color version being exactly the same, there's a commentary for the black and white version with all of the kids, because the kids are still alive. And I was talking about this a little bit with Joe when we did Sleeping Beauty, because some of the bonuses on that had like original animators. We're getting sort of into this era now of Disney movies where if people were like in their 20s maybe or younger, they could still be alive now or recently enough to do commentary with this stuff.
When was that released? Because Kevin Corcoran is not alive anymore.
Well, not anymore, but I mean, this is from probably 10 years ago or something.
Okay.
But I mean, yeah, like it alive in the DVD age, let's say. But yeah, because it's Tim Considine, it's Tommy Kirk, it's Kevin, and not Annette Funicello. Although I think I don't know, she died a little while ago, so maybe not her either. But and then Roberta Shore.
Yeah, but Annette Funicello also, she was struggling from, what did she have then? Was it MS?
I think that is what it was. Yeah, she had MS for a long time before she passed.
Yeah.
So that could be too. But again, she's not really even in this movie that much. So it's really, those are the four I would say main kids. But so they do the commentary, and mostly it was just them sort of reflecting on it and stuff. I didn't get too much from that. But There's two featurettes on here. One is sort of just an 8-minute, in memoriam of Fred MacMurray, and they talked about all of his different Disney movies and all the great things he did. But then there was a 12-minute featurette called The Shaggy Dog Kids, and that was when we actually saw, live video interviews with the kids grown up, Tommy Kirk, etc. And that was, I thought, very interesting. They were talking about the different ways of the the effects of making the dog and some of the other things that they did. Like, for example, when the whole room was shaking and all the, the table and all that kind of stuff was shaking, they sort of talked about how they made that happen, and it was all practical, of course, and all of that. So that kind of stuff was pretty interesting. And they did talk about, I think this is on Wiki too, but they talked about how for the dog itself, when they did the dialogue, they would give him beef jerky if he wasn't moving the mouth, with the stuff, which is nice to know, because back in that time, this was right before, I think Mr. Ed started in 1960 on TV. And that was famously like they would give the horse electroshocks or something to make his mouth move. So I was happy to see that hopefully they didn't do that with the dog here.
Yeah, I also read that sometimes they just changed the dialogue that the dog was saying if it didn't match up right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that could be too. And then that's kind of cool. I mean, to do that in post. So yeah, overall, this was a nice trip down memory lane for me. I don't think it was, I remembered it very, very fondly. I think it's okay. I think it's cute. I think it's fine for what it is. I guess I didn't really expect it to be this amazing thing, but I have very fond memories of the Herbie movies as well. And some of the other ones we'll get to in the 60s. So hopefully they can hold up as well as this one, because I thought this was a fun movie.
Yeah, it's fun. The only other thing we didn't talk about was the song. What did you think about the song?
Oh, yes, the song, the Shaggy Dog song.
Yeah.
Well, it's, of course, still in that slightly older style of the singing. But I believe that Roberta Shore sang it, because she talked about that in the commentary, that she sang a song and she put an album out with Disney or whatever. Look, it's forgettable. It kind of came and went. It's at the very beginning of the movie only. Or do they do it again at the end? I don't think they do.
I think they might do a short reprise, but I'm not sure.
Okay, but yes, it's over the credits.
They definitely the Shaggy Dog type of, I don't know if that's like stop motion animation that they were using. I
like that. Yeah. I think that's probably stop motion, maybe. Yeah. I thought that was cool.
They bookend with that, at least at the end. They had that at the end.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, look, I think they're getting to some hipper music.
That's what quite
right.
I thought it was a little bit hipper.
Yeah.
Definitely not dated as 20 years prior to this movie coming out.
Right. All the sing-songy garbage that we got from through the 40s and most really of the 50s. Yeah, I think this is probably more akin to the Davy Crockett theme, where it's definitely a little more hip to the music of that time period.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not very memorable, but in terms of style, I thought it was fine.
Yeah. I'm surprised that this was the number 2 hit movie of the year. Especially,
I know many movies came out that year that I would have thought, did way better.
Some Like It Hot, North by Northwest. I would think those would be up there as well.
Yeah, although this was the only kids movie, really. I mean, there was no Disney animated that year. Sleeping Beauty. Oh, that was the beginning of 59. You're right. So wait. So that's right, because like Joe and I talked about, that only made just under its $6 million budget on its first release.
Yeah, it became the highest grossing movie of 59 through its release
later. Right. I wonder why that is then. You're right. Sleeping Beauty. I don't know.
Because they went in and they heard the sing song think of Sleeping Beauty, and they walked out and was like,
yeah, they said we're out on this.
Can I have my 25 cents back?
You're right. You're right. I forgot that was January of '59 with Sleeping Beauty. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Some Like It Hot is obviously huge. Rio Bravo, that's one my dad loves. That's like a big war movie, I guess.
I never Pillow Talk, but that was listed as one of the movies that it beat out as well.
Pillow Talk is Doris Day.
Okay.
That was one of the Doris Day Rock Hudson jams. They did like 5 or 6 movies together. Well, even Imitation of Life was Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. That's pretty impressive that it did so well.
Yeah.
Well, think about it. I guess. I don't know. The animateds were doing pretty well. I think Lady and the Tramp did pretty well. So you could expect maybe there would be some goodwill there. Yeah, I don't know. Hard to say, but yeah, big hit movie at the time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we should grade it here. For me, I think this is probably in the B range. I think B or B plus is about right for this movie.
I would probably give it a B for my enjoyment of the movie right now, watching it for the first time. But I will give it a slight bump because I think it did some creative things for its time. Definitely with the black plot elements. And I mean, this movie spurred a whole bunch of like body switch movies after this, and was kind of like the next hip thing to do after this. So I will give it a B plus for its cultural relevance.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Like, I feel like for the time period, I think a B plus probably works all right. For right now, 2021, if I was watching it for the first time, I think maybe B is more in line. So yeah, I would agree with that. And I guess I'll give, I guess I grade these DVDs most of the time. I mean, I guess this is sort of a B or a B plus DVD as well. I wish they explained the difference between color and black and white a little more, but it's pretty cool that there's a full length commentary and that there's a couple of features on there with the grown up children. So I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
And then what's next? Is it this Darby O'Gill?
Darby O'Gill and the Little People is next, and then a movie that I've never heard of, which is Man on the Mountain or Something on the Mountain, or I don't know.
Okay.
Up the other day.
Well, we never heard of Tonka either. Look how that turned out.
Yeah.
Well, Zorro is after that, and I guess we still have to figure out what we're doing with Zorro.
I forgot about that.
Little
People. Zorro. Is it the Sign of Zorro? I believe
Zorro the Avenger is the
Zorro.
first. Yeah, Sign of Zorro,
which is not on Disney Plus. The Sign of Zorro. I don't know. And then it's
bizarre.
Then what is the Third Man on the Mountain?
Third Man on the Mountain. Although, so here's what's weird though with the Zorro movies. So the Sign of Zorro actually was released first in Europe. It was released in '58. So if we were going by European dates, we would already have done Sign of Zorro, I guess. And then Zorro the Avenger was released in '59 in all territories. So I don't know what to do with that. Maybe we should do sort of the Zorro double. We'll talk about it, I guess. But Third Man on the Mountain, is after that. And then Toby Tyler is after that, which I think I might have on DVD. I don't know. There's going to be a lot on DVD, I think, coming up, because I feel like Disney Plus does not have a lot of these.
Disney Plus has Darby and the Little People. I looked that up the other day. Doesn't have Third Man on the Mountain.
Okay, nice. Well, luckily that's in a few weeks, so we'll figure that out. But all right. Well, Tim, this was a fun trip down memory lane for me. A new visit to memory lane for you.
Yeah. And I watched it with my wife, Erin, who was a big fan of this growing up, and she still liked it. She laughed a lot. Oh, good. Okay. Oh, so see, she grew up with it as well, just like me. Very, very good. Yeah. All right. Well, Tim, thanks for joining, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody. Bye.